Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees, no more 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees, no more 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradise. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees, no more 9 to 5. What a way to make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto.
What's going on, Crypto Paradise fam? Welcome back to another midweek market update. And for the first time in a very, very long time, we've actually had a relatively quiet week in crypto, at least compared to the last couple months. We've had some pretty amazing breaking stories that if we were in any sort of normal bull market would be major news. Certainly last cycle, any of the stories we're going to cover this week would have been major headline news, probably pumping Bitcoin to new highs. But as nuts as the last 9 months have been, I don't think even many of these stories are making the radar for most people. Unfortunately, Bitcoin's chilled out a little bit, been pretty much stuck in a nice range above between 80 and 80 and mid 80s here. Yeah, chilling out. Better than the last few weeks where we've seen massive swings to the upside and downside. With me, as always, is the Hitman. What's going on today, brother?
Not too much. Like you said, not too much excitement really going off, but some of the tariff fears and some of the volatility in the stock market has cooled off a bit. That is good for risk on assets, including Bitcoin. But you can see that, we've rallied nicely off the low, but we're just kind of consolidating here. We did do a TA video talking about how these moving averages were getting very tight, and it could result in an explosive move back into major resistance to 95,000 area for Bitcoin. Obviously, that is what everybody wants. The quick negative news today that is putting a little bit of pressure on stock market is there's new export rules for semiconductors, which hit the AMD stock, NVIDIA stock, and some others in pre-market, which is weighing down here. Now, I think that the export rules are really going to be a nothing burger. Those blow over, and then the market is going to do what the market is going to do. The reason being that we have investment from major Taiwan semiconductor industry leader that wants to create 40% of all global production here in the United States. And Trump isn't going to do anything to harm that industry. He understands how important electronics, semiconductors, chips are to the growth and sustainability of America. He understands what it means for technology, and Tesla is included. So let's get some more information on the exports. Let's see what it does for the markets today. But again, Bitcoin chilling in this range. These moving averages are tightening up, and when the price tends to coil, we are going to see an explosive move in either direction, hopefully to the upside on the back of a continued sideways to stronger NASDAQ.
Yeah, agreed. If we do see a little bit of a pullback here, I think that's probably expected in the next couple days. But I think that's all it would be, a minor pullback, maybe down to 80, high 70s, and then looking for a much larger bounce to the upside there. A lot of things headed in a positive direction for crypto and for Bitcoin here. I think this is a bit of more of a waiting game.
Yeah, the fear would be that we could stay really correlated with the SPY and the Nasdaq, and Elliott Wave International, a really world-renowned Elliott Wave theory. They have their own private group, whatever it is, and they're calling for a potential crush in the stock market over the next few months, leading into the end of the year. Now, I don't agree with that per se, but if that's the case, there is still a chance that Bitcoin does finally do that major decoupling from traditional asset markets. And we continue upward with gold and other emerging markets, which have really been in like an 11-year consolidation and looking to break out as we see kind of uncertainty in the more traditional SPY, NASDAQ, and Dow of the world.
Yeah, I think once the trade wars kind of get settled down and we see what's happening with rate cuts, a lot of those fears are going to be put aside. And I think there's nothing really holding back either the traditional markets or crypto markets at that point. How long does that take? Again, I'm sticking with my Q3 predictions. Probably maybe, like we said, midsummer. Start to see a little trickle upward, and then, more explosive growth in August, September, October through at least till the end of the year, maybe even into 2026. And a lot of that is, as we mentioned, hanging on the Fed, what they do in May, expecting now more. Well, I think more people are now expecting a rate cut, but I believe we do have JP coming to the desk again here today, 11:30 a.m. Eastern time, to talk about inflation data and market outlooks. This is obviously not an FOMC meeting, not where they would typically announce an official rate cut, but the markets will definitely move based on his sentiment in that conference here today, whether he's dovish or hawkish. Does he mention anything about the rate cuts? Does he expect to see continued decrease in the inflation numbers, or are they going to continue to be a stick in the mud and hold out against the cutting rates this year? What are your thoughts on this address today and overall odds of getting rate cuts in May?
Well, I mean, this address today definitely is going to cause some market volatility, even though he's going to be very vague. But people are going to be trying to parse every word he says, whether he's dovish, as he mentioned, rate cuts, and what does he say about the inflation. Now, I think his inflation numbers, if he quotes numbers today, are still going to be above the 2% mark that they want. The reason being is we've been watching Truflation numbers, which are well below 2% for the past 30 days or so. But what does the Fed do? They work on like a 45-day delay. So we're not going to see these sub 2% numbers that we're seeing probably till he talks in May. And that's why people believe that maybe there is their first rate cut in May or as early as June. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to affect the market. I think he's still going to be above 2% if he cites any information. But if you want to know what the true inflation is and try to create your own thesis looking out 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, a quarter like Nate is doing, check out Truflation, because their numbers have now been accurate 11 months in a row. 11 months in a row. What they are saying 45 days later, the Fed then says, and they have had us substantially below 2%, as low as 1.38%, currently 1.48% for the past 30 days, every single day. So it's only a matter of time until the Fed see those numbers. And will they move the goalposts? That's the fear. I hope they don't move the goalposts, because they've been saying sub 2% is when they will look to cut rates, and inflation is currently below that mark.
Yeah, that's always been the traditional mark that they've looked for. Now, I know they've changed how they calculate interest rates in recent years, but for them to come back and change and say 2% inflation isn't low enough, that's either a testament to that their equations that they're using now are bullshit to begin with, or that something else is going on behind the scenes, that they're working on something deeper in the economy, trying to push things one way or another. But yeah, I don't see them not cutting if we get official numbers below 2%. So fingers crossed for that. And sorry, go ahead.
And the last thing on the markets here, you can see the NASDAQ chart here. So, talking about tariffs and everything kind of sorting itself out, you can see this V-shaped recovery we've had. And look how straight up and vertical it is. 12% off the panic lows. So hopefully it didn't panic out your stocks or any of your positions there. And again, I drew a couple red lines here. This was last week, showing that maybe we can consolidate in these levels and lead higher. This can still lead to stronger risk on asset markets, Bitcoin, speculative asset, and money can flow back into those assets. And we can lead upwards and higher to new all-time highs in NASDAQ and every other asset class over the course of this year or the next couple of years of this term. So we'll see how this all plays out. But it is pretty wild that we see this decline, and now prices are back up above the previous low on the last dip back in September of 2024. So everybody's saying their 401k going to zero. We are now higher than what your portfolio was back in September of 2024 before the election.
Yeah, we knew these type of things are going to take time. There's going to be pain in the midterm. Kind of the tear off the Band-Aid expression that we've said many times. We know we can only kick this can down the road so far. So major changes are needed, and if you can hang in there, hang in there. It's been 3 months since Trump took office, so I'd be patient. That's, I think, the best thing, whether you're a traditional investor or a crypto investor. Better times ahead for sure. Quick reminder for everybody watching here, we've got the Friday Shill and Chill coming up. We've got the giveaway in the Crypto Paradise mini app. If you want to win that raffle this week, we got 100 USDT up for grabs. You need to tune in to either last week's or this week's Shill and Chill. Last week's Shill and Chill was fantastic. It had some great partners on there. Showing some awesome projects in there. You're welcome to come show your own project. Come give your thoughts on your biggest conviction bags, etc. But do turn in. Make sure to tag 2 friends and get into the mini app. You can find that on our our Twitter page right up at the top there. We got links to that to join and get yourself entered to win that $100 USDT. We're giving away prizes every single week in there. I think we've given away, almost $1,000 every single week since we launched that in December. So if you're not a part of that yet, get in there. Don't know what you're waiting for. And obviously join the Telegram group as well. It's where you're going to get the latest updates, chat with the whole crew, chat with the community, and get info on all the products we've been working with when they're launching and when our token, the Surf token, is launching, hopefully here in the next month or so. So lots of great stuff in there. Make sure you are following, liking, subscribing, and sharing. If you are watching right now, we really appreciate you. Drop a comment if you're watching on YouTube or on X where we're live streaming this. Really helps out the algorithm, helps us produce more content, get more partners, and give more back to all of you guys. So I appreciate everybody watching there. Taking a look at the overall market here on CoinGecko. Still 7-day, lots and lots of green here. A lot of things up 10% or more, almost nearly 10% here. Obviously 24-hour up and down a little bit. Mostly down across the board there, minor pullbacks, but again, bigger picture, 7 days, everything looking pretty good, recovering here. BNB in particular, one that is an interesting one to point out here. Big story, BNB chain just burned 1.58 million BNB, worth almost $1 billion in its 31st quarterly auto burn. The BNB network has had its share of FUD going around, but you can't argue with the fact that they're sticking to their guns and doing that constant burn there. Again, almost $1 billion burned this quarter.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive, and I think that's why BNB, before this last dip, was really the market leader. If you bought Ethereum instead of Bitcoin before this market turnaround, obviously you've drastically underperformed. But if you actually bought and held BNB, not even including passive income opportunities, you drastically even still outperformed Bitcoin off the lows. BNB gave you bigger multiples than Bitcoin, going from 16,000 to 110,000. That's pretty impressive, as we really haven't seen an alt season. We've seen the likes of Ethereum drastically underperform. I think Binance is here to stay. BNB is an integral utility token within the Binance centralized exchange, but also is starting to create more headwind on the decentralized side. Obviously, we know BSC network is one of the best Ethereum scaling networks out there, but they're continuing to add new tools. PancakeSwap is the main DEX over there and continues to provide value and liquidity for the BNB token holders.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to see that kind of stuff. Love it or hate it. Can't argue with the consistency there by the team. Some other, more and more bullish news coming out. Again, stuff that would absolutely send the markets in any other bull run or any other market conditions. $12 billion Bitwise lists Bitcoin and crypto ETPs on the London Stock Exchange today. Again, more signs of adoption all around the world in major markets. How long is it going to take before this dam breaks, Nick?
Well, I think this is why I've been saying that people forget how quick momentum can shift in the crypto market and how fast Bitcoin can move. The 10 biggest days in Bitcoin make up a majority of all the gains for the entire year. We know that altcoins can go from 0 to 100 quickly. You can do 10, 20, 30% per day in altcoins, no problem. And like you said, the news that we were hearing in previous cycles would absolutely send stuff. You'd be making 10%, 20%, 30% trades intraday with this kind of news if you're playing the short-term trading game. And right now it's not happening. And the reason it's not happening is, yes, we're correlated a little bit with the stock market now. We got ETF and institutional players, which dampen some of that volatility. But overall, speculative and risk on market assets aren't going to perform now. It's not just Bitcoin and crypto. It's really all assets aren't performing because of the uncertainty in traditional markets, the downturn in traditional finance, the uncertainty around inflation and interest rates and everything that is going on is weighing on all of these markets. Nobody has cheap capital available, and nobody is deploying their dry powder until they feel comfortable in what is going on in the overall market. So I think the answer really is, once things settle down in the NASDAQ, we continue, whether it doesn't need to be an uptrend, even if it's just sideways and stable and people know what they're getting into, that's when people get antsy. That's when speculative assets will go off again. And that's why I keep saying that really this could be explosive. 244,000 by the end of the year is very possible in Bitcoin. And people think that that is insane. But this dam, this tightening, whatever analogy you want to use, all this pressure is just building up. And all that news that we've been hearing that is getting lost in the weeds of the tariff and the global wars and the politics is going to be re-released, and it's going to unleash a massive price upside very quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd mentioned free floating cash, the M2 money supply. You had a great post on this the other day. The money supply compared to Bitcoin has been one that's been a very hot topic. Those two have been pretty highly correlated as of late. And we've been seeing the M2 absolutely ripping to the upside. Again, Bitcoin setting up all the ducks are lining up here for Bitcoin to begin to chase and absolutely rip. If you look here, chase if we do chase the money supply, puts us well up into the new all-time high territories here.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, I think it was a week or two ago, I said, hey, probably a time to sell some gold and get into some other assets. That was near the low in NASDAQ and near the previous high of gold. It was like 3150 or 3200. Gold did just go to a new all-time high today, showing that there's still fear in the markets, showing that people are looking for a hedge against the general markets. And one of the thesis for Bitcoin is it is the digital gold, but it still is tied to the NASDAQ with risk on assets and speculative assets and tech plays. It's not quite digital gold yet, but I think gold surging to new all-time highs just confirms that there's still uncertainty in the markets. And even though we've recovered off the lows in both Bitcoin and the NASDAQ, general market participants are still weary of the market. So this is a good sign that we're here at these levels with general market participants still nervous and still dumping their funds into precious metals like gold.
Yeah, speaking of gold, Bybit just announced you can now buy gold with USDT on Bybit. It is, I'm not sure if they're using PAX or the PAX gold or USD. I would assume it's USDTs or USDC's gold token there. But making it that much easier to move your gold when you do it. I know there's a lot of traditional market strategies, paper gold, physical gold, backed indexes, etc. Ways you can buy and sell and trade gold. But now, once again, more and more financial products moving into the Web3 space. And
talking about, gold, I saw you did a video on a Premio, which is a little bit of a different twist. Because I was about to say, Bybit offering gold really, to me, kind of marks that, hey, this fear in the markets is probably near top. Gold's price is probably near top. And that's when, hey, now Bitcoin can start to move. But there is a different way to look at gold because it is long-standing. It's going to stay around. And a Premio is one that I like as a low-cap speculative play. You did a great video there. Maybe you'll show it on the screen. Tune into that, where it's actually it's a gold-secured crypto because they actually have a gold mine that they're going to start mining. And you're going to be able to get utility and value in real physical gold based on the APRA tokens that you accumulate, hold, and stake over, the next bull market and moving forward into the future years.
Yeah, we've done a couple cool videos on them. I did a couple shorts kind of breaking down the over 30,000 foot view of what they're doing. They've got access to one of the, I think it's 65 square hectares of land there. They've only looked at 2% of their, or I guess, what do you call that? Their inspection on the land is, kind of probe for gold deposits there. And in just a 2% of their stake that they've looked at, they've already found over 13.5 tons of gold. That's a ton of gold. So it's kind of like, think crowdfunding meets Web3 for your own gold mine. Never thought I'd say I'd be, investor in a gold mine, but Premio's making that a possibility. Very cool project. The other video talking about how they're doing it differently. gold mining, diamonds, etc., have a kind of a negative connotation a lot of times when it comes to the markets in terms of whether that's an environmental impact or a human impact where poor mining conditions, essentially slave labor. Premio's completely flipped that on its head. They're using sustainable mining practices. They're implementing things like solar to help decrease the energy toll on the local grids, and the workers are very well taken care of. So, not only a cool, interesting project, taking a new approach to combining gold and Web3, they're going about it the right way, really embracing the ethos of altruistic capitalism. And I think you guys also filmed an interview with their founders there that should be coming out if it's not out already. So definitely go check that out if you haven't yet. That is an interesting new project that we've been working with here recently. I encourage you to check them out if you're a gold bug, if you're a crypto fiend. This is combining the best of both worlds there.
Yeah, and why I like it, yes, there's more risk associated to it, but there's more upside potential because rather than it, like Bybit is doing, investing in their gold-backed token, and then you're really just relying on the gold market cap and the price of an ounce of gold, which I think is probably near a top, or you're going to underperform. I would wholeheartedly say gold is going to underperform Bitcoin over the next 9 months. Okay, gold is already massive. People are celebrating all-time highs when it makes 5% moves. When Bitcoin goes from 76,000 to 86,000, a 15% move, people are still bearish and nobody's even excited. So gold is going to outperform, Bitcoin is going to outperform gold. If you're looking to get in the gold sector, which I think is really interesting to me, that's why Premio or maybe some other projects caught my eye, because you're getting more of an upside. You're investing in gold as a business, Web3 gold, rather than just the spot ounce value of gold, which you can go to your local pawn store and buy a gold coin if you want to do that. I think that's the better way to do it rather than owning paper gold.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea with a Premio is, think about it as a, crowd-funded business. So the people that are helping fund their business are going to share in the profits of that business. And like we mentioned, 13.5 tons of gold already found in just 2% of their stake there. So as they start to pull that gold out of the ground, you'll be able to redeem and actually get that tokenized gold and then do with it as you will. So you're not just simply going on the speculation of the price of gold, but the profits and the revenues of that mine itself. So pretty cool stuff. Definitely go check them out.
Yeah. So, back to the markets. I'm sure we got some other news. Like mentioned earlier today, it looks like NVIDIA, now that the markets have been open almost 30 minutes, NVIDIA is down 6%. AMD is down 5%. Those are large market cap stocks within the NASDAQ. So, dragging on the general market with the NASDAQ down 2% today. What would be nice, some dovish talk from Powell today, along with some clarification on what these new regulatory guidelines for exports of semiconductors from the United States. Again, Trump is not an idiot. Trump got them to invest $200 billion here. We'll be a 40% producer of semiconductors in this country. And I think this is going to be a nothing burger. Let's get some clarity on what this new regulation is from Trump himself, from his administration. And I think the losses from big players like NVIDIA, Intel, and AMD can quickly reverse and provide more stabilization to NASDAQ in the broader markets.
Yeah, a lot of that's based, going to be down to what happens with the trade war with China. China now feeling the pressure from those tariffs have started apparently to be rumored to start selling the Bitcoin that they seized. I think they have something around 195,000 Bitcoin. I believe they're the number 2 largest holder behind the U.S. in the world. And now they are possibly starting to sell that off. So signs that they are feeling the pressure. There's also talks here going on. China has said they're willing to come to the table. They've put a few stipulations forward. U.S., of course, has put their own stipulations, forward on what they're going to want to see. So talks are happening. Things are slowly moving in the right direction there. I don't think it's going to last longer than this summer to get this all figured out. Neither country wants it to go that long. And we've been seeing all sorts of news headlines of how China, there are lots of different industries as well as the government and their currency really feeling the pressure from these tariffs. So do expect some resolution there in the relatively near future.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can see my screen. I don't want to put any salt in any wounds, and we've never recommended this project in any of our platforms, Crypto Paradise, TDI, or anything, so it doesn't really affect us. But it was really big in the news. It was the one news piece that was around this weekend is OM. OM absolutely got slaughtered. It was a massive RWA platform that everybody was leaning into for this new bull market because RWA is very hot as well. It's kind of a sector people want to be involved with. And this thing dumped from over $6 straight down to 40 cents. Now, what is this a good thing to reminder? Well, this is when you have team that has a ton of tokens or a pre-sale standard in which distribution comes to the market slowly. I think this is why we've seen a big shift in market sentiment where you want short cliffs, a lot of the tokens, fully diluted valuation low, and getting the tokens into the market supply, because when they had 90% of the supply still coming to the market, and this is what happens when you have a ton of tokens that are still out there, your circulating market capitalization, your FDV, have a big gap. So if you have low liquidity that is focused on centralized liquidity, things go on, a bot goes down, a market maker does this, whatever, you can get this catastrophic event where it causes panic to the downside, whether that is leveraged traders, team members taking profits, low liquidity, margin calls being made. And this is when your price can absolutely plummet. Now, we've seen some things come out from the team side, from Binance's side. People are pointing fingers, but really what it points to is when a bulk of your liquidity is way too small for your FDV, along with it being on centralized exchanges, meaning it can be pulled, sold into, or margin called, this is the risk that you take for your chart. So keep that in mind when you're looking at these bigger market plays, bigger capitalization plays, because they are not all like each other. This is why I do like the fair launch approach, or when bigger projects go ahead and do a large liquidity pool on a decentralized exchange, whether it is burnt or locked, because nobody can pull that. And if you want to sell or people want to sell, it can go into that deep liquidity pool and impact the price much different than this. We can all look at this chart and say this isn't typical. Yes, OM was a big market leader to the cycle, but now it is lower than where it started. So be careful out there, folks, with what you're putting your money into, and we'll see how this all plays out. When it was happening, I was telling my group, well, if you do own it, we don't own it. You probably will see some upside pumps, so I probably wouldn't panic sell down here. I think I made the post around these level 76 cents. But we did see yesterday that it did get a green bar back to $1.50. Again, we'll see how it all plays out, but it only takes one greedy team member to start taking profits, or the distribution to get in the VC hands during bearish times. And these are the charts you get. So be careful, folks.
Yeah, definitely a bit of an anomaly. Probably one of the biggest reasons that I would say it's an anomaly in the crash is that it wasn't from a hack, right? Most of the time when we see something like this, we expect to see news of an exploit or a rug or a hack or something. I think this was just a case of kind of the problems inherent in the current system when dealing with market makers and centralized exchanges. Like you said, massive non-circulating supply for Mantra, very low liquidity. The team didn't have the right provision set in place. They should have had some sort of alerts, alarms, something set up to where if liquidity was starting to get exploited like this, that they could step in to add more. They were obviously way too slow to react. Token down over 95% in that drop, and that happened in a matter of about an hour. Very, very crazy stuff. I don't know that we've seen something of this nature happen to a token of this size. I think it was over a $6 billion market cap at one point before it crashed. Now sitting, I believe, under 500 million. So tough stuff to see. The team's been pretty transparent talking about what they see from their side happened. But it's time's going to tell will they recover. They are a very strong project with good leadership. Obviously never any financial advice, but this would be one if you potentially want to speculate getting in on these lows here. They could have a lot to recover. So we'll see what happens as this story continues to unfold, but great lessons there. Don't necessarily, just because it's a big project doesn't mean it's fail safe. The market makers and the centralized exchanges have all kinds of tricks that they can pull, and it only takes one mistake to absolutely wreck a project.
Yeah, and to go on that, based on CoinGecko's data, this isn't set in stone, but they still have over 50% of the supply to still come to the market. I'm not sure what this infinite max supply is. I don't know if that's accurate. But you're already getting these valuations based on still another doubling in token supply coming over the foreseeable future. So a potential lot more selling pressure moving forward. Remember, similar to we're going to have the XRP people coming after us, similar to XRP, when markets go sideways, if team members or devs or whatever, these tokens keep going into the market supply and the market conditions are bearish or whatever it is, you're going to be seeing people sell into that. They're not going to wait for the moon like you are in all the glory. That's why XRP, besides this last pump over the past 3 months or so, was just a terrible market lagger and went sideways to lower because all their team members are getting paid in XRP tokens. And guess what? They have house payments, utility bills, whatever it is, and they try to hold on. They see the vision and the speculation too, but at some point they're selling the tokens. And if the market isn't participating to the upside, then XRP price, and in this case, OM price is going to continue to see sell-off. So, at the very least, I still think there's a lot of tokens coming here. Obviously, something happens which makes a lot of investors weary, and bag holders of OM will be looking to exit for profits or pumps. We kind of already saw that when it rallied from 45 cents to $1.30. What happened? It sold off and it's back down to 80 cents already, a 40% drop off that pump we saw just yesterday.
Yep. That that is a something you can learn from when you do see these massive crashes. It's obviously highly risky, but if you're looking to make a quick flip, sometimes most of the time when we see these massive crashes, even when we saw the Luna crash, Luna eventually went to zero. When it dropped all the way down there, it pumped back up. You can make a quick 2, 3, 4x. So sometimes those are opportunities. In this case, it went down to 33 cents and then rallied back up over $1.50. So quick 5x there. So just a little bit of alpha. Keep an eye out for when you see those kind of exploits, when you see those hacks, when you see those major projects dumping. You might get a little action there. But again, always be careful with that. Do your own research. Not financial advice. That is a highly risky play. Kind of moving on, just wrapping up here, a few positive stories, or I guess made this one more of a funny story here other than anything else. Trump announcing a new crypto play, this time a real estate venture game, supposed to be Monopoly-esque. Again, I don't know if this is bullish or bearish. The Trump coin is argued to be bullish or bearish when they put that out. But it certainly tells us that this administration is 100% all in on crypto. You're not releasing a game if you're worried about kickback coming from it.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think it just shows that regulatory framework is there. And when they do this, say that it's tacked to Trump token utility, it kind of green lights now the gaming sector, GameFi within the ecosystem. It's like, well, if Trump is doing it, again, they always say Donald Trump. He isn't. It's more Trump family, Trump-related businesses. He's not doing it himself. He always gets the headline because he is the president of the United States. But anything that they're doing, you can expect is regulatory compliant, or they're getting it overlooked by the SEC or whatever it is. And that does open up more ventures, more ideas, more possibilities for real builders in the crypto space as well. And it brings back some hype into the various sectors. And in this case, GameFi will get the green light. They'll look at the token utilities, see what's going on. And that kind of rules out all the security claims for some of those tokens that have launched in the past or that launch in the future.
Yeah, certainly keeping things in the news. Crypto is not going to go quietly into the night if we do slow down here. So a little bit of bad news or bearish news. The Oklahoma Strategic Bitcoin Reserve Bill that we talked about a few weeks ago on here that was going up for vote has failed to pass its committee. Joining a few other states that have tried and failed to pass a Bitcoin reserve bill. Now, I don't think this will be dead forever. I'm sure the next opportunity they get, they will bring this bill back up. But sad to see. It would be nice to see Oklahoma's bill have gone through. But again, the fact that these are even up for committee, up for votes, is a bullish, very bullish sentiment to see, not just the U.S. as a federal government adopting Bitcoin, but all the individual states moving in that direction as well.
And there has been some states that I think it has been passed where a percentage of, state revenue will go towards Bitcoin purchases. And these states that it was up for vote, they look like they misquoted them there, but that it's up for vote, I think we'll get a revote once the Federal Reserve officially does have the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. Because yes, there's been, signings and everything pushed by Trump, but it hasn't actually gone through Congress that it's officially live, and the government isn't really allocating funds or buying more, accumulating more Bitcoin yet. But the FOMO will continue to spread state to state. And you can see there on the map that it's already started. And we really haven't even seen the federal level FOMO or the other nation state FOMO outside of El Salvador and a couple other smaller countries around the world.
Yeah, really cool website. We showed it the other week, bitcoinlaws.io. A lot of information on which states are passing bills, introduced bills, what kind of measures. You can look up all the information on here, very detailed.
What's interesting to me is it does seem to be pretty bipartisan as well. You see some states there that went Democrat. You see some states there that went Republican. The other thing is, too, when I say that, I live in Missouri and I'm next to Illinois, which is very blue, Illinois is. But, those states have a lot of cities that are very Democrat, but the broader state level itself that is bringing in a lot of revenue to the state, whether it's farming or whatever, is more of Republican leaning. So it is good to see that we are bipartisan on what's getting passed. Bitcoin is bipartisan at the higher levels within Congress, the House, the Senate. There's people on both sides of the aisle who are into Bitcoin, into crypto, and into Web3. So that's why I think that we do have a bright future for crypto as a whole, because it kind of crosses the lines and it's more of a new financial market that has the interest of both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. So Wyoming, South Dakota, Pennsylvania, North Dakota, Montana, and Oklahoma have all had the bills fail, the strategic Bitcoin reserves fail. But you can see lots and lots and lots of states having introduced, going to first committees.
Arizona's almost there. Wow.
Yeah, Arizona is leading the race, followed shortly by New Hampshire, and Texas. I imagine when we see one state make it to the finish line here and get enacted, we see a lot more states following through very quickly.
Yep.
Which typically happens there. Once somebody kind of, breaks that glass ceiling, kind of gets the precedent set, makes things a lot easier, whether that's from regulatory clarity concerns or what have you. That goes a long ways in moving things forward for everybody else involved.
Is Nevada on that list anywhere?
Let's see.
The only reason I say that is it'd be really interesting because I think there's a big tie between, sports betting and gambling with crypto and Web3, and Las Vegas is in Nevada. So I think they're moving slow here, and they're missing out on a big opportunity to try to get some Bitcoin strategic reserves in Nevada. It just seems like it fits the mantra of Nevada with all the gambling. I mean, most of their GDP of that state is tied to Las Vegas and sports betting. So it'd be, I think those two go hand in hand.
Yeah, so it looks like 36 states have put forward some sort of measure, not all of them a strategic Bitcoin reserve, but some sort of measures around Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Nevada, as you can see, one of the few in the black there, and I would imagine that, yes, it definitely has something to do with the power of the casino lobbies there in Nevada.
They want to make sure they can account for every dollar. They need all their fees.
Yep. Absolutely. We've talked a lot in the last couple of weeks, again, talking about, going with states adopting Bitcoin back to the federal adoption of Bitcoin. We have the strategic Bitcoin reserve created on a federal level to hold what we have. And there's been lots of different speculation, especially here in the last few weeks. We saw just last week, the head of the digital assets, I can't remember, I think he's a digital assets director, coming out and saying that the U.S. is planning on buying more. It's just a matter of, getting an official statement of how much and when. But Van Eck, $110 billion Van Eck, proposing using BIT bonds for the U.S. to buy more Bitcoin and refinance its $14 trillion debt. So again, more and more stories coming out, more and more momentum moving in the direction that the U.S. will not only hold, doing the opposite of what China is doing right now, the number 2 contender in the race, the Bitcoin arms race there, but potentially the U.S. government starting to buy Bitcoin, and 1 million Bitcoin has been the number that has been floated around. So if and when that happens, I think it's more of a win, not an if. We see that global arms race for nation states kick off, and that could absolutely send Bitcoin into the stratosphere.
Yeah, and the biggest thing is they've been decided that they don't want this to cost any taxpayer money, because that obviously would defeat the purpose and would be a bad political stunt. But they have floated around selling gold for Bitcoin. They floated around doing a bond setup where you sell kind of a Bitcoin bond, so we can use that to buy Bitcoin, kind of like MicroStrategy, which is a good idea. And also with these new revenue streams, whether it's the gold cards or tariffs or Doge spending cuts, they can use any of those funds to acquire Bitcoin as well. And that doesn't directly affect taxpayers or use taxpayer funding, which is a great idea. And the fact that those ideas are floating around, and there's so many ideas available, along with, the president of El Salvador just met with Trump a couple days ago, or yesterday it might have been as well. We know El Salvador is buying 1 Bitcoin a day every single day as well. So maybe they got some ideas there floating around to get this thing rolling. And we can start seeing that U.S. Bank account or Bitcoin bank account number start to increase and go up and to the right, which of course will cause the Bitcoin price to go up and to the right as well.
Absolutely. Kind of wrapping up, keeping it on the Trump train, if you will here. Trump's World Liberty Finance has invested in a lot of different cryptocurrencies. And now we see DWF Labs, one of the biggest market makers and investors in the space, They recently announced they've got a $250 million fund for mostly OTC and other things like that. But they have just announced that they're taking a $25 million stake or investment into World Liberty Finance, backing looks like DeFi projects. So again, the industry loves what's going on with the administration, at least in terms of the adoption rates. A lot of people not so happy with the price action due to the tariffs, but again, I think you got to look a big picture. When we get past this stuff, when we get the rate cuts, the steps are it's already set in motion to send Bitcoin absolutely into levels we couldn't even imagine or haven't even seen before.
Yeah, and we're actually working on a thread for DWF Labs, so I'll get that out today as well. But this is DWF Labs' really first public move into the United States here with the United States Crypto Project, that is tied to World Liberty Finance, which is tied to Donald Trump himself. And I think what this does, other than their investment, I don't really care. Will LFI token do well? I don't know. I don't really care. I think this just marks that regulatory clarity and embracing innovation in the United States is coming. If DWF Labs is doing a major investment into this platform and collaborating with this platform, they have some inside information on the forward mantra, the SEC mantra, and everything going around in Bitcoin and crypto here in the United States. And why does that matter to you? Because if we get regulatory clarity here and we're embracing innovation just like we did the internet, then of course America wins in blockchain tech and crypto, but the broader world and the financial markets win as well, because this will open the floodgates from all these other countries that kind of look to the United States for regulatory guidance around investable assets, which means more market participants, which means higher prices. And you guys watching this live stream are already have bags, and you will benefit from more markers like this one coming into the space.
Absolutely. Patience wins overall. We've been seeing tons of stories recently of guys talking about selling Bitcoin bags back when Bitcoin was $100 or $14 or whatever. Patience pays for the long run, especially with an asset like Bitcoin. So make sure you're doing your research. Make sure that when you're investing, you have high conviction for the right reasons, and when to take profits. When to hold through sideways and down times for bigger and better pumps that are coming down the road. So that's all I had today here. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to kind of wrap things up with, but those were, like I said, fortunately this week a relatively quiet week in crypto, and just kind of waiting to see what happens. Probably a big bit of volatility coming in here this evening, or I guess it'll be pretty late my time, but this morning for those on the Western Hemisphere with the Jay Powell statements.
Yeah, we'll tune in for that. Stay hydrated, stay caffeinated, touch grass, and let's keep winning.
All right, we'll see you guys on the beach.